Welcome to the Curious Minds podcast.
Proudly supported by Accelerating Aotearoa.
This is a podcast where we take a problem.
In our case, it's the poo problem here in Otara.
That's right. When it rains, it floods poo.
So our team designed an AI-driven self-flying drone called the Flying Taniwha.
To take photos of poop in the water when it rains.
So we can own our data, to show our lawmakers, to lobby for change.
We don't think it's good enough that our local waterways are becoming too polluted to swim in.
So this podcast is about finding small solutions to big problems by having conversations with influential people.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Curious Minds podcast and episode 4 with our special guest, Judy Speight. Hello Judy, how are you?
Kia ora, Marlon. How lovely to be here with you guys.
Can you please tell us a little bit about the history of Accelerating Aotearoa?
Hey, well, it's a long, long story, guys. Started about 20 years ago when my husband and I decided we wanted to do something that wasn't the corporate jobs we'd been doing for the 20 years before that, or maybe, I think it was. We wanted to do something that might make a difference rather than charging around the world or doing whatever we were doing. It was a pretty sad state of affairs working in corporate. Earns lots of money, but that's about it. So we set about looking for ideas for what we could get involved in. And I guess one of the first things that I thought about, which is, we were saying, well, let's use those skills that we put together working in the corporate world. How can we use those to support communities? How can we use those to support places where those skills aren't often evident because people don't bring them there? So coming back to your question, Marlon, where did it come from? It came from Tony's and my intention to do something different. Tony's and my intention to do something that mattered. And Tony's and my intention to use the corporate skills that we had to work to serve communities. And 20 years later, we're still true to those things. Don't want to be doing something that means nothing. Don't want to be doing something that just wastes time. Being absolutely committed to making a difference and making a difference where it matters.
And what changes have you seen over the last 20 years here in Otara?
In the last 20 years, I really feel that it's increasingly that understanding and commitment and determination to do something solid. We're on to the third, fourth generation of people that came to Auckland along with their Pacific cousins. They came to Auckland for big industry and great jobs, and there's still no damn jobs, and the jobs disappeared really fast. There's no jobs, and there's no major cohesive interventions to make change happen and support change to happen and support whānau to move on and make a better life for themselves. So not enough is the short answer to that. Not enough good change, and a slippery, slidey slope towards what we see happening in the streets these days.
So when you were a little child or a kid, did you ever imagine your career would be serving the community?
I think the short answer to that is yes. Mum and Dad both work very much in the same kind of field that we're in now. Mum was a counsellor just at Tangaroa College, just down the road, for 20 years. And Dad worked in industry and worked alongside many of those people that had come for those flash jobs in the land of milk and honey that didn't really exist. And did a lot of work in that field too. They both ended up as counsellors. And we had a revolving door in our house where we met all sorts of amazing people. Never knew who'd be around the table for dinner or who'd be staying for a couple of weeks or what families we'd go to. And I guess when I think about that too, at 17, I went to Tongatapu, stayed just for a few weeks, but I stayed with this amazing woman who shaped my life, really. She only died in the last couple of years, so an incredible opportunity for a rangatahi to experience, living in a Drongan village home, in a village with an amazing village leader. So that shaped me and shaped my vision for where I was going. And I guess by the time I got to university, I was thinking, well, what shall I do? And I pursued Māori studies and Te Reo Māori and Pacific studies alongside maths and English. But that was the stuff I loved most of all. Social anthropology. We had to rote learn all the islands of the Pacific. I think there's 211 of them. Very important young learning for an 18-year-old that was on the way to the pub. And you couldn't, until you'd passed that test, you couldn't pass the paper, which was hilarious. But I met some incredible people at that part of my life. And if you haven't gathered by now, I guess I'm one of those like long-time friends rather than short-time friends. So, Shane Jones was in my Te Reo Māori class. So I'm still friends with him. And my sister, I'm still friends with her. So, I think that I was always destined for that. But as I say to any young person that says, they love community and they really want to work with the community, you actually have to go out and earn some money so you can buy a house in this ridiculous market first, or maybe a car as well. And so I did spend a number of years working in that corporate sector, but always yearning to come back to community because it was what drove my heart and what I really wanted to do. And there's a saying, if you find a job you love, you'll never work another day in your life. And that's how I feel. Every day I get up and I feel excited about the stuff that I'm going to do. And some incredible, incredible opportunities have come.
Hey, Judy, can we talk about the poo problem here in Otara?
Okay. I like the fact we've cut to calling it the poo problem. Let's not muck around with this thing. It is the poo problem and it's horrible. So, let's talk about the poo problem.
Can you tell us exactly what gets affected by the poo problem?
The poo problem starts because the pipes are too small and some of them are broken. Those are the pipes that are connected to wastewater, which is a nice way of saying poo. So the pipes that are connected to our toilets and our washing machines and our baths and our hand basins, they're too small for the number of houses we've got here. What happens every time it rains is that the poo goes bubble, 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 comes out of the pipes and into the creek. It's just not, that's not safe. So you can imagine what happens when it gets into the creek. As we all know, it kills the fish. It kills even the tiny little things that are just this big in the creek, the macroinvertebrates. And it makes it unsafe to swim. So if you talk to someone, if I talk to people that were born here, when they were kids, they would be swimming in the creek. Well, it's not safe to swim in the creek anymore. I don't think that's okay. It's not okay. So what do we know about that? We know the kids here, as you know from our talks in the last few months, we've been scientifically measuring the water quality over the last few years. And we know that it doesn't matter where you go in the creek, it's not safe. And yet nothing is happening about it. I think in 2014, the local board mentioned the fact that we had a wastewater problem here, but there's nothing in current strategies that I'm aware of that says this is what we're going to do about the fact that we've got poo in the creek water. And what's worse, although I know it's probably not imminent, but the infill housing that we see around the rest of South Auckland, which means that we're going to put 2 houses where there's 1, or maybe 2 4-story apartment buildings where there's 1 house, those are going to go in and there's not enough wastewater capacity to meet that.
This podcast is about trying to find solutions to the waterway problem. As a young person, what can I do to contribute?
Well, I think, Mateo, the work that you guys have done as part of the Imagine Cup Junior is huge. It put on the Australasian stage the fact that 1, there's a problem, and 2, here's something we can do about it. So I would challenge you to build that jolly drone that you won that competition with, and let's do that. Let's turn up the noise. We can't keep our knowledge inside the four walls of this building. We need to turn up the noise. We need to talk to our local board. We need to talk to our council. We need to talk to the media so that we know, everybody knows how bad the situation is. It's not okay to have poo in the creek. It's just not.
What is something that you are hopeful about that you can share with the audience?
I think the fact that we have this podcast studio is a really exciting opportunity to tell the truth, to break out from behind our walls, to tell anybody who can turn on, use their digital skills to turn on a Facebook page and become educated by some of the best minds in our country. And certainly people who, like you guys and us, are passionate about this stuff. That's a really exciting and positive opportunity. And, for the first time, we have this incredible tool that we've, installed, and it's right here in Otara, which is really, I'm really, really hopeful about podcasting and your participation in this project as, the future and the way to tell our story. Bring the local leadership back into what's real for us, our reality. Our reality is we can't go for a swim in the creek. And I was walking down there today with a young guy who's a comm student and looking at the creek and going, what a magnificent playground this would be for local kids. What about if it had fish living in it? Fish that we could fish from. Imagine playing in the creek, canoeing in the creek, fishing fish in the creek. And one of the local trusts has got that as its vision, that within our lifetime that would be possible. So for your children will be able to fish in that creek. Is that something that gets you excited? Makes me excited. Mm.
Thank you again, Judy, for sharing your wisdom with us and being a guest on our podcast.
And thank you, audience, for watching. Be sure to tune in next week for another podcast and help us fix this problem.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Ka kite.